Hello everyone. Today I have come with another review of a movie which has really not done well in the box office, but I just wanted to watch it because this was a movie I really was very eager to go ahead and watch this movie and see how it has shaped out. So it was on my bucket list for a long time. I was actually waiting for this movie to release so that I could watch it. Finally, I have watched it, and I believe it's an absolute horror classic. People are missing this movie because of Rotten Tomato scores, and even some very average reviews from well-known critics. But if you are a real horror fan, if you're a true horror fan, this movie is just out of the world. This movie is probably after a very long time we've got a classic horror movie which fitting the likes of Nosferatu, then Bram Stoker's Dracula, some of the best Frankenstein movies. It is a classic horror movie. Classic. It There is no comparison to this kind of a movie, and history will be kinder to this movie. It will soon attain cult status in the years to come. I do understand that this movie right now has done really bad business. It's a massive flop, but it breaks new ground when it comes to horror in a very, very big way. And any horror fan must watch this movie. It is a fresh take on Dracula. It pays homage to one of the finest horror vampire movies of all time, that is Nosferatu. It's moody, dreary, it has an atmosphere and ambience which just reeks dread. After a long time, you really feel scared of Dracula. You know, you really feel scared of Dracula. Currently, it had just become a caricature. Dracula had become this guy wearing a coat with a cape and sucking blood. He definitely, the dread which he used to hold, the fear which he used to hold, the fear which you felt after watching Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, that had simply disappeared over the years. It has got eroded. So it was wonderful to watch a movie which goes for the jugular. It is a guttural, visceral movie which completely exceeds your expectations from every angle. Every angle. It has broken a lot of grammar of horror movies also. Last time I really felt this way was when I watched Blob, an absolute classic which broke a lot of uh, rules of a horror movie. And this is a movie which does the same. It breaks quite a few rules, and I don't know where to start and where to end. The kills of Dracula. I have never ever watched Dracula uh, going for these kinds of kills. Sometimes I was thinking, is this a kind of a slasher movie or is it pure Dracula? But the way they have actually made it, they have projected Dracula as a boogeyman, and each and every one of the kills they escalate, and each of them, every one of them, are shocking, surprising, and have a new twist. And there is one kill which actually kind of breaks new ground because I don't want to go ahead and disclose it. Uh, I don't want to give a spoiler alert, but you will really care for the victim in that scene, and you'll know what I'm talking about. And after that kill, the stakes become higher because you really start hating Dracula for what he does. You really hate him. It is very like usually it doesn't happen. Nowadays, slasher flicks have become, they have become so childish. I don't know why people love the Scream anymore. I watched Scream and I was laughing. Three ghost faces. What is this? Is it a joke? Is horror a joke? Now, if yes, people are going ahead and going to halls because of the Scream franchise, uh, but it's not horror. Did you feel scared when you watched Scream? Did you really care about the victims when they were dying? It's a complete trash. I'm trying to provide an analogy with Scream and Last Voyage of Demeter. You don't care about the characters, you don't care about the victims, you don't care about the monster, you don't care about anything. Whereas Last Voyage of Demeter is really when I'll tell you, if you watch it in a kind of a laptop with your earphones, you will not get it. You need to go to a hall, you need to watch it in a hall with Dolby surround sound, and then it's going to scare the cockles of your heart. Many people might ask me, then why does it fail, right? uh, there are quite a few reasons why it fails. And I mean to say, it doesn't fail as a horror movie. Let me be very frank with you, it doesn't fail as a horror movie, but what it fails as in realizing the tastes of the horror audience right now, and the horror audience right now is really dumb. you know they really don't go for good horror movies. They cannot go ahead and sit through a excellent horror movie, an excellent period piece with real chills and thrills and horror. They cannot. It's impossible. They don't have the interest, the patience, nothing. So when a really good gourmet comes to town and you kind of watch it, you don't appreciate it. You just don't, because you won't get it. You're not educated enough in horror to realize what an amazing horror movie this is. Some of the shots, uh, they paid homage to Nosferatu. Even the monster is inspired by Nosferatu, and I thought it was an excellent take because I didn't want to watch Dracula with his cape and his coat and his bow tie and all these things. I really didn't want to watch it. I wanted a very raw, guttural, visceral take on Dracula, and that's what the Last Voyage of Demeter gave us. Some of the reasons why it doesn't work. There's one thing which I would like to point out, and don't get me wrong, okay? I think the main protagonist of the movie, that is Corey Hawkins. Corey Hawkins is an excellent actor. Excellent. He is probably one of the best actors I have watched in recent times. Excellent. Brilliant actor. But somehow his face doesn't project that vulnerability or that sense of empathy which goes into, you know, a kind of a leading man's kind of visage. Like, for example, in Dracula, you really cared and felt for Keanu Reeves when he was being sucked dry. I'm just trying to put a certain degree of perspective. When Corey Hawkins comes on stage, you really don't care for him that much. And it's not his fault. There are certain faces which just don't evoke that sense of vulnerability, or you really care or connect with that character. And that is one of the big things which has derailed this movie. And it has, um, again, it has nothing to do with Corey Hawkins' acting. There are many things which go into casting the leading man of a horror movie, but unfortunately, it is not Corey Hawkins' fault. But Corey Hawkins does not come across as a leading man of a horror movie. You just don't care enough for that character. So that is one of the reasons why I think Last Voyage of Demeter falls short. Because if you cannot connect with the main protagonist, there's a little bit of an issue. Liam Cunningham is pretty good. He does a good job. Even the lady that is Eileen Francois, she's quite good, and that's interesting to see that there is a kind of a final girl take to a Dracula tale. That was excellent. I just love that part. And one special note of mention for Woody Norman. He's an excellent child artist, excellent, brilliant. Because you really don't get good child artists nowadays who can uh, generate that sense of sympathy or that care from the audience, but he just does that. He is one of the best things of this movie. And what else? I would just say watch it. Watch the last voyage of Demeter. When it even if you have not watched it in a hall, if you get it in a Blu-ray, if you get it anywhere, please do not miss this. This is a cult movie which will grow with the times. I loved it because yes, it is an effective synthesis of two of my favorite movies. One is Moby Dick, and the second is Aliens, and of course The Thing. So, if you take these two movies together and you put them all in and you make a movie, this is exactly what you get. I really expected this kind of a movie, and I got much more than what I wished for. It was out of the world. It was one of the. It is, in fact, in recent times, if you tell me about a horror movie, this is one of the best horror movies I have watched, and this will rank in my top 10 horror movies when it comes to period pieces. Yes, it has failed because after all, we all know the last voyage of Demeter is a kind of a doomed voyage. It is a part of Dracula, and we know that everyone dies and Dracula reaches the shore of New England. So we know that these things are going to happen. So possibly some people will say, no, I don't want to go ahead and watch a horror movie where the villain succeeds and everyone dies on the ship. But I will still say that this doomed voyage is a voyage to remember. This is just brilliant. I think Bram Stoker couldn't have written it better than what we just watched. Okay, and this is a movie to watch in a hall. You can literally like smell or feel the rats and the creaking boards of the ship and everything. This is classic horror at its finest. Don't miss it under any circumstances. Just don't miss it. You will love it if you're a horror fan. Forget the reviews, forget all this Rotten Tomato score, forget all these critics. They don't know anything about horror. They just don't. A true fan knows. This is, in my book, if you put it under Dracula, it is in the top 5 Dracula movies. Now, many people say that this character doesn't have personality. This very character of Dracula doesn't have personality because Dracula has a personality, right? He talks, he speaks, he's suave, he has a swag, right? No, but this is the way they needed to project Dracula on a ship in order to make it threatening and in order to terrorize people. And the kills, man, I don't think I have ever watched Dracula be so agile in that bat-like frame, going for the kills. Sharp, sudden, shocking, guttural, visceral. I I don't have words to say how good it is. If somebody is watching me who has made Last Voyage of Demeter, I would just like to tell them thank you from the bottom of my heart. Don't get deterred by these kinds of box office numbers. Don't get deterred by these negative reviews. True horror fans have realized what you have done, what you have made, and it is out of the universe what you have done. It is so awesome to watch Dracula breaking new ground, Dracula moving up, and I would just like to thank the studios. Please, this is the way Dracula is required or needed. The problem, again, I have told you, you needed a major star cast for this movie. That is one of the big things why it has failed. Two reasons why it has failed. Again, I told you two reasons. One is Corey Hawkins. I just don't think he has the visage of a leading man. And again, it has nothing to do with his acting. He's a brilliant actor, but he is not a star. That is the difference. you need a leading man with star power for horror movies, otherwise they will not work. You cannot take a kind of a uh, like unknown characters, actors, and everything. The only person we know is Liam Cunningham. I mean to say, he's the only actor who has a little bit of a popular status attached to him. Whereas all the others are really, we really don't know much. Corey Hawkins has a certain background, but again, I'm telling you, Corey Hawkins does not come across as a good victim or a good victim protagonist or a hero, even though he's a brilliant actor. There's no problems with his acting. It's just there's a major aspect of looks in horror movie. If you have a monster, you need to have a leading man who the audience cares about, and he just doesn't project that demeanor wherein we care for him. Whereas, of course, when it comes to the uh, young boy, that is Woody Norman, he does a brilliant job. But he's not a star. But in my book, if you're talking about horror movies, what Woody Norman has done for Toby is one of the best um, child acts, for a horror movie. A child acting in a horror movie. He is so good, so precautious, so cute, and he's such a fine actor that you instantly connect with him. You instantly. I would also request some of my fellow horror fans to watch this movie not like a student of horror, because if you watch this movie like a student of horror, you say, okay, what is this angle, how is that angle, he's not threatening enough, I knew this jump scare, then you will not appreciate this movie. The best way to appreciate The Last Voyage of Demeter is to surrender to this movie. Just surrender to The Last Voyage of Demeter. Think that you are really doomed there on the ship and you have nothing around you except water, with Dracula there with you, hiding in some corner of that ship. And he's picking you up one after one at the dead of the night, and you cannot track him. It is so good. It's just you could literally smell the salty sea when you're watching this movie. And I also love these kinds of ship movies, Mutiny on HMS Bounty, Moby Dick, and it's such an excellent synthesis of both. It really doesn't matter that the movie doesn't do well in the box office. Box office popularity does not mean that the movie is good or bad. The movie is good or bad based on what you watch. And what I watched was an absolute classic. You don't get movies like this anymore. Last Voyage of Demeter is an absolute must watch. If you have missed it in the hall, when you get the Blu-ray, in a room, put a Dolby surround sound, big screen, watch the movie like that, surrender to it. It's a magnificent horror movie. Magnificent is the word. Creature design, acting, sound design, the jump scares, the kills, man, the kills of Dracula, out of the world. I've never watched Count Dracula kill like this. And the homage to Nosferatu, it's just surreal beyond a point. And it was after a long time I connected with the characters. I felt for the characters, and I really wished hell for Dracula. I just wanted him to die in this movie. And I don't think in any movie I felt that way a long time for any kind of a boogeyman, or for that matter Count Dracula, because every time Dracula movies used to come, he's like, oh, he's come here. He's again come with his cape and his canines. Still again, it's the same thing all over again. I never wished him bad. He's just come to entertain me. Here, I really wanted him to die. for all the harm he did on that ship. Brilliant voyage, the last voyage of Demeter. Don't miss it. Bye. Take care. Cheerio. Good night.